season because of COVID-19 has decided to retire after 11 seasons in the league. I'm Dan.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time for the Rundown with Rob Sanders.
We're waiting.
Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining me today. Lots of stuff we're going to get into. We'll look at some NCAA tournament stuff. But first, I want to head out to the phone and welcome in from WFNZ, my buddy, Mr. Will Pelagic. Will, what's going on, brother?
Not too much, Rob. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you with us today, man. I thought we would talk a little bit about the Carolina Panthers. You know, I see so many different in different spots. You see, hey, this Deshaun Watson's going here, Deshaun Watson's going there. You know, you hear that the Panthers are locked on to get Deshaun Watson. What's the feeling on the grounds up there in Charlotte?
Well, right now there's a tenuous nature, Rob, because after another 24 hours have passed, it feels like 24 hours ago, a lot of the focus was around the on the field stuff involving Watson, but now it seems like the nature of the Watson talk has obviously turned to a different bit of a tinge with now 3 alleged complaints against Deshaun Watson when it comes to the alleged sexual assault that's being brought forth in a couple of separate civil suits down in Houston. I think that right now, any talk of a trade is possibly put on hold while I guess the investigation or the legal proceedings might go forward in terms of Watson. There's obviously a much different scenario here for a lot of the teams that are possibly looking at Watson. I don't think it's necessarily affected the desire to at least acquire him, but certainly this is an additional layer that teams will have to go through now in order to try and make sure that Watson not only doesn't have anything legal that's pending when it comes to him, but also just the simple aspect of trying to acquire a player that is going to take a very hefty amount of assets in order to try and obtain from an organization in Houston that has been basically at the outset of this feud very obstinate to want to budge to his demands.
You know, but when you look at it from this perspective too, it's at the time that hurts Watson the most. And, you know, I don't want to get into the whole stuff with the alleged accusations because that's something that has to be handled in court. But as far as just the timeline, I mean, it's just horrible right now with the draft coming upon us, and teams are going to have to look to get their quarterbacks. You know, we just heard where Mitch Trubisky's going to Buffalo. I mean, there's guys moving around all over the league, so couldn't be at a worse time, right?
The timing couldn't be worse, Rob. You're right. And again, that's not to talk about the sensitivity of the issues. Any timing involving accusations of this nature is necessarily a bad one. So just from that perspective, I don't want to act callously in that regard to at least diminish that aspect.
I'm just talking about on the field stuff, though, on that front.
You're absolutely right in terms of trying to have that player move. This certainly does put a hampering on anything that Houston can do. And I do want to make something very, very clear. I feel like it's irresponsible for a lot of people to say that this is something that the Houston Texans are doing just because of the relationship with the lawyer and the owner. That to me seems like some tinfoil hat stuff, because in reality, why would they have any incentive to do that because of the fact that this hampers their ability to maximize their asset? I just don't see the correlation as to why they would want to do something of that nature. Right now, if I'm the Houston Texans, regardless of the accusations that have come out, it should be in their best interest to move this player before the NFL draft happens, just because of the fact that that's where the maximum amount of assets can come back to their team. If they hold on to Deshaun Watson past the draft, and even heading up into the season and try to force him to basically sit out games and sit out the preseason and accrue fines, any deal that they will consummate for him, independent of what happens with these investigations, is going to be significantly less than what it would be for, say, a deal that would happen before the NFL draft. This is not really a good situation for anybody. So to insinuate that there's an ulterior motive on the part of the Texans to do something of this nature to try and keep Watson there, I feel is very irresponsible by those who are trying to purport that type of language.
And I'm not buying that either. I don't think that there's, you mentioned the tinfoil hat thing. That's exactly what I think of that. If Deshaun Watson did something like that, he should be held accountable. But, on the other end too, if it comes out that none of this is really what happened, then the women should be held accountable. But they all should be, they should get their day in court. And I think that's going to come eventually. And then we can go from there. But before this happened, though, what was your feeling with the Panthers? Did you think that they were going to be in line to try to get Watson? Because we have Coach Rule, I think a week ago, saying, hey, Bridgewater's our quarterback.
Well, I think a lot of that chatter was to try and, I guess, overcompensate for the way that they had been talking about Teddy since the offseason. If you remember in Matt Rule's exit press conference, the only real mention of Teddy Bridgewater was that he had to have a tremendous offseason in order to be the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers coming season. And as a result, much of the conversation since then has been about their desire to be aggressive, to upgrade at the position, including Scott Fitterer, the brand new GM's first comments where he said that we're going to be in on every deal, whether it's for a quarterback or anything else in order to upgrade this roster. And a lot of the back channel talk has mirrored that. There's obviously a great desire for them to evaluate all the quarterbacks in the upcoming NFL draft. Trey Lance, they had a very sizable presence at his pro day in Fargo. They had nice things to say about Mac Jones after the Senior Bowl, although I think that was more platitudes than actual desire. I think they felt like from people who I talked to that the quarterbacks who were at the Senior Bowl were all basically backup-oriented guys or long-term projects that aren't going to necessarily change your franchise in the immediate. And, of course, their need is more immediate than it is long-term. But in terms of Deshaun Watson, multiple people who are in on this issue have said that this is the Panthers' first and primary desire in terms of a football move aspect. He is the guy that they want. The question is whether there's a desire by the organization to make a move, and number two, whether it's actually Watson's preferred destination. You've heard a lot of different variable people who have said different things about whether or not he wants to be in New York, in Miami, in Carolina. There was Michael Lombardi, who earlier this week said he wants to be in either Denver or San Francisco. I still have heard nothing definitive about Watson's desired destination. But in terms of the package that Carolina would be willing to offer, at least what I've been told, nothing is off the table, including Christian McCaffrey, including either of their young defensive rookies, Brian Burns or Jeremy Chin. And just from an aspect of what Houston might want, Houston's going to want one of two things. They're going to want an avenue to replace that quarterback in Deshaun Watson, whether it's in the draft or via an acquisition, or they're going to want some young defensive talent. And that's why I brought up both Burns and Chin, because it might take one of those two players in a deal going back to Houston to make that happen, along with an attractive / sizable draft capital package that goes back to the Houston Texans. I feel like the Panthers are willing, and really there's very little that's off the table for them. It's just a matter of whether or not it's what Deshaun wants and what the other team, the Houston Texans, wants, because they have still been very adamant that they do not want to relinquish Watson for really anything at this point.
When you really stop and think about it, man, it's the way they cleared salary cap room. I mean, it's the stories that have come out in the past day or so. I mean, could completely shatter what the Panthers were trying to do. If they don't go with Watson, how do you think they'll approach the draft?
Well, I think that their next goal right now would be to get on the phone with the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins to think about trading up. And right now, I think the desire for the Jets is to remain at 2 and take Zach Wilson and somehow jettison Sam Darnold elsewhere. I still feel like they're in a position where with the additions that they've made, and including possibly talking to Juju Smith-Schuster, of the soon-to-be former Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver, even though he's still trying to possibly have a reuniting with that old franchise. At least that franchise is trying to reunite with him, at least. I feel like the Jets are kind of dead set on taking Zach Wilson at 2. The real wild card here is Miami. They've got plenty of draft capital. that number 3 overall pick was one that they acquired. If they would have a desire to trade down and receive a package of picks from the Carolina Panthers, that would allow them to go up to 3 and take the quarterback of their desire, whether it's Trey Lance, whether it's Justin Fields. The fact of the matter is, though, Rob, sitting at 8 guarantees you nothing. The people who evaluate the NFL draft say there is a clear delineation with the top 4 guys, even though that Lance profiles as somebody who might not be able to start right away. Each of those 4 have a franchise quarterback moniker attached to them in terms of being able to transform a franchise. There's no guarantee that a team is going to, or a team that's not going to leapfrog Carolina and possibly usurp their ability to try and get somebody if they stay at 8. So right now, their biggest goal is to try and move up. In terms of trying to go about the rest of the draft, they have really clear delineated needs. They still need more help on the offensive line. They have had a need created at defensive line after the release of Zach Kerr and the non-tender of F.A. Obata. There's also a desire for them to improve at corner, even though they made a signing earlier today. Not necessarily one that would have, I would think, the biggest of impacts. I think that's more of a depth signing, but I feel like those are areas they need to go after. And also, there's a glaring need at tight end. So in terms of trying to weigh the draft capital that they give up to try and acquire a quarterback, they also need to reserve some for the rest of this year, because I don't know, even with the capital that they have currently, that they have what it takes to completely overhaul this entire roster in this offseason like they want to.
All right, well, lots of stuff to follow there with the NFL. Let's pivot to the NCAA tournament for a minute. You know, North Carolina in the tournament, but that seeding that's next to the Tar Heels is not something that we're used to. But when you look at this North Carolina team, though, they rebound very well. And when you rebound very well and you have some good guard play, that's kind of a recipe to advance in the tournament.
There's been a wide variance with North Carolina in this entire season when it comes to their good is very, very good, but when it gets bad, it can go very, very bad. And their real rhythm derives from playing inside out and around all of those bigs. You've seen the emergence of De'Ron Sharp and Walker Kessler throughout this season. You saw Kessler have the big second half in the regular season victory against Florida State. Sharp has been very good also as of late, as he's gotten more playing time in place of the injured Garrison Brooks. And even Brooks himself had himself a stalwart game in the regular season finale against Duke. But really, when it gets to a point where they're having to rely on their guards to either create off the dribble or do perimeter shooting that does not come in the flow of the normal offense, that's when things kind of stop for North Carolina. And also, they've had a very big problem with turning over the basketball, especially in the latter part of the ACC season in games that they've dropped. So in order for them to beat Wisconsin in this opening round, it's going to have to be controlling the basketball, playing that inside-out game, not settling for threes that do not come in the rhythm of the offense, i.e. things off of ball reversals and screens and things that come from the bigs. Anytime you're having the guards pass to each other to try and take threes, unless it's off a drive and dish, it's usually a recipe for disaster for North Carolina. But if they play at their top potential and they play to their ability and play with their actual form, not only do I think that they have what it takes to beat Wisconsin, I feel like they have what it takes to give Baylor a game. The only situation that worries me about the game against Baylor, if they get to the round of 32, is the fact that they are going to be completely overmatched at the guard position. But I still don't think that there's any team in their quadrant that can match up with their size, especially with their ability to offensive rebound. And one thing also to keep in mind, Roy Williams has never lost an opening round NCAA tournament game.
That's true, too. Now, we look up to the northern part of the ACC with Syracuse. You know, Jim Boeheim, you know, they have the matchup zone. That hasn't really been the best Syracuse defensive team that we normally would have, but they've got some guys that can score. And the more and more I watch Syracuse, I'm like, you know what? They may have the opportunity to do some damage in the tournament.
And the thing that's intriguing about them is that if they get through, you could have a matchup of two Hall of Fame coaches in Jim Boeheim and Bob Huggins sitting there in the round of 32. It would be pretty juicy of a matchup. The only problem I have with Syracuse is that they don't have the prototypical big in the middle of that 2-3 zone. Dolajai is very serviceable, especially on the offensive end, but in terms of defense, he does not have the kind of length that you would normally have for Syracuse. So they get their real success on really trying to stretch out that zone. But the problem is the middle of that zone is more penetrable and more vulnerable than it usually is. And that's the thing that worries me about picking them. But they certainly, on the offensive end, have made up for it. And they got some real statement wins, including the win against North Carolina that took place in the final week that might have been what got them off the bubble and securely in the tournament, in addition to what they did in Greensboro.
All right, give us the Willie P upset pick. I'm sure that you have one that you look at and you're like, they got that one completely wrong. Lots of folks like Winthrop over Villanova. Villanova doesn't have their starting point guard. I mean, is that your favorite, or do you have another matchup that you like?
I do like the Fighting Pat Kelseys. I really do. Just because the only problem I have is that I don't like when it seems like everybody and their brother latches on to an upset, especially these 5-12s. I know that there's usually one that happens every tournament, but it's not always the one that at the outset people always think about is going to happen. So the fact that Winthrop has become the 12-5 darling of everybody seems to at least scare me off a little bit. But I do feel like when it comes to that contest, with a weakened Villanova team not having Colin Gillespie and Winthrop, who's basically played a near perfect season, I feel like that's one that you have to look at. If I wanted to give you another one that kind of local interest up here is UNC Greensboro. They've got a fantastic player in Isaiah Miller. I know that they're playing a Florida State squad that got to the ACC tournament final. But the one thing about that contest is that if you are a team that's a double-digit seed, you need an NBA-ready prospect to be able to take over, and they have that with Isaiah Miller. If there's another one you want to look at too, Ohio also has some pretty stout play as well. They take on a Virginia squad in a 13-4 contest. That's one that I'd look at for too if you don't like those other two.
Will Pelagic from WFNZ joining us. Hey, man, I always appreciate you taking some time for us, man, and tell folks where they can find you on Twitter. You put out some good stuff there.
At Willie P Style, IEP Style on Twitter. We'll, of course, have all the stuff tonight on LaMelo Ball's first game in Los Angeles for the Hornets. So we're very much looking forward to that one tonight. Hopefully they can possibly rid themselves of the bad taste left in their mouth by a blowout loss a night ago in Denver.
How special is LaMelo Ball, in your opinion?
He's incredibly special. He's a guy who I didn't have the tepid, or I was more tepid than hot takey when it comes to that particular pick, because it felt like that, it was kind of a fait accompli with the way that the draft went. You had Edwards and Wiseman go in front of him, and it felt like that Charlotte was just compelled right there to take LaMelo Ball. I will say this, he's emerged a lot quicker than I thought he would. He's a much better finisher than I ever gave him credit for. I feel like we all have been impressed by his ability to shoot the basketball from three. He still needs to do some work when it comes to perimeter defense, but he does get his hands in passing lanes, which is an ability that I feel like the Hornets really use to their advantage, because it creates a lot of steals and creates a lot of deflections. And also, his rebounding ability as a guard, as somebody who can be a bigger guard, is something that you can't teach. And he has a nose for the basketball. He's a real special player, and we've gotten a chance to see him actually in the arena for the first couple of times here over the last week and a half. He's just as special to watch in person as he is on screen. It's really remarkable.
Will Pelagic from WFNZ joining us. Hey, man, thanks for taking some time out for us, buddy. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Rob. Anytime.
Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot, buddy. We'll see you later on. All right, there you go. Will Pelagic joining us from WFNZ, talking about the Deshaun Watson stuff. And, yesterday when we talked about that, it was, all right, there was one accusation, then all of a sudden there's two accusations. It's interesting with everything that's going on now. We'll talk about that when we come back here on the Rundown. Some crazy stuff that's out there online. We'll talk about that in a moment. You're listening to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. LeVar Ball is terrible. You're absolutely right. That guy he's on his own level, man. He's just beyond silly, in my opinion.
Now, your chance to win $1,400. Text the nationwide
Guys, give a thumbs up on the YouTube video. That would be awesome over there. Appreciate you guys checking that out.
Because on Thursday, May 27th, they'll be on stage in person at our 2021 iHeartRadio Music Awards. Join us as we celebrate the songs and artists you loved and listened to the most on iHeartRadio in 2020. Our 2021 iHeartRadio Music Awards, Thursday, May 27th. Watch it live on Fox. Welcome to the Zip USA Radio Report.
You know, I was listening to Cowherd earlier, and he made this big spiel about how the Patriots could be trying to get Watson. I don't know how that would work. They'd have to cut Cam. Can't have those two on the same team together. I mean, you think Cam's going to back up Watson? Oh, man. What a disaster that would be. You know, Belichick can make it work. He'd probably convince Cam that he's a wide receiver. And, you know, I've never – Belichick's that great of a coach, man. I was hoping that maybe Belichick would have gotten a guy like Trubisky or Tyrod Taylor, somebody like that, you know, give them an opportunity. Like Tyrod Taylor's been a stand-up guy all over the place. So why not give him a chance? Hell. We'll see how that works out for him, but Patriots they've won the World Series. I mean the off season, man. Camp could That's a savage comment right there, buddy. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Folks talking online about different things there. David says, I'm just glad I didn't have to listen to LeVar Ball lately. That's a good point. His son's doing the talking on the court, though. This is like the first time Michael Jordan looks like he got a draft correct. So there you go with that. Tom talking a little football says Pat Chung retired. He said it's a big hit to the Patriots secondary. That's good. We're also talking about Cam Newton. He says he's lucky to be on the Pats payroll. There's a big quarterback move earlier today with Mitch Trubisky going to back up the Josh Allen up in Buffalo. So the Chicago Bears continue to be a gong show, man. As a Packers fan, I appreciate that. Because it's not like the Lions are ever going to be worth anything. And then you've got the Vikings, who they pop in and out every year. But just keep on keeping on there, Chicago. Keep getting them sorry quarterbacks. You just keep guaranteeing that Green Bay is going to win the North every season. USC Insider Online says the Pats should give Marcus Mariota a call. Okay, I can see that too. And he says he's too brittle, Tom says, but he's built like Sam Bradford. Yeah, there's definitely that too when you think about that. I want to talk really quick here about the stuff with Deshaun Watson. You know, yesterday it was one lawsuit, then it was two lawsuits, now it's three lawsuits. According to the third lawsuit, he allegedly forced a woman to have oral sex with him in December of last year. This is the third case, according to this article. The previous two lawsuits were related to two separate incidents during which he's accused of committing civil assault by touching a massage therapist with his genitalia. Here's the weird part about that. I've read this, and this is one of the weird things on this. Houston's a very good city, a big city. I'm sure they have plenty of massage therapists, okay? He flew, according to the records here, he flew a massage therapist in from Atlanta, put them up in a 5-star hotel, and then these things allegedly happened. I'm not siding with anyone on this. If you are somebody that, if something happens to you as a woman, I honestly think that you should if you're comfortable enough to go and file a civil case, then you are comfortable enough to go to the police. And with the way that the world is now, with things like the Me Too movement and things like that, all of these cases are taken seriously now, or more seriously, in my opinion. So if something like that happened to some woman that that was, trying to make a living being a massage therapist and ends up with Deshaun Watson as a client, and Watson does or says something to her that she doesn't like, if she feels like he violated her, he should get a day in court. I don't like the whole aspect of it's just a civil suit. So under this, Watson is not going to go to jail. He may get hit in the pocketbook, and his reputation is going to be damaged for the rest of time. Watson did put out a statement saying that the attorney told him that basically they would settle out of court for, a six-figure sum. Now, I don't know how much that is. Six figures is a lot of money, but Deshaun Watson makes a lot of money, playing football. He could have made this go away with a six-figure thing. I get that. But on the other hand, if he's trying to clear his name, more power to him on that too. It's just the one aspect that I don't understand was the one lady said her mom dropped her off. She just got out of chiropractor school. He forced her to have oral sex. It made her sick to the point where she messed her pants, basically, is what was written out there. And none of this went to the police. That's the big thing. It should go to the police. And if you are a woman and something like that happens, man, I've got 2 daughters, man. And when I think about that, I want them to be strong enough to go to the police. And if they're strong enough to go to an attorney, it's the same thing. Go to the police first. We'll see how all that shakes out. But this shakes the whole NFL world. Someone asked if he's married. He's not married as far as I know. No. But either way, it does shake the world of the NFL for the offseason. If you want to sound off on what Deshaun Watson, what the deal with Deshaun Watson, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. By the way, the NFL has declined further comment at this time. We'll see about that. And by the way, a track record thing is a big deal. If this came out that it was Jameis Winston, I think we all would be jumping down the throat of like, oh, well, that happened. But Watson has the reputation of being a stand-up guy. So there's that too. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. 1832, that is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown. Later on in the, probably on Monday, I will have my top 10 free agents in the NFL. Will Jadeveon Clowney make the list? I'm doing my research. Jimmy wants to know, why can't a man be assaulted? Okay. Yeah, okay. If you've been assaulted, regardless, go to the police. Thank you for correcting me, Jimmy. Tom says sexual assault in the workplace is treated as a civil wrong in the U.S. according to criminaldefenselawyer.com. Okay. But the accusation that he forced her to have oral sex, that should go to the police. That's further along than sexual harassment. We'll have to see how that goes. And the way, I've talked about the Deshaun Watson saga here lately. Where's he going to go? Where's he going to end up? Well, now it's, how is all this going to come about, and how's this going to roll out in court? 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. We're going to talk about, we've got the tournament coming up tomorrow. I know they have the first 4 games tonight. Yes, I know. But the reality is that the tournament actually starts tomorrow. The one game tonight does make a lot of sense. The 2 11 seeds, UCLA and Michigan State. Yeah, that's kind of an important game. But the actual tournament starts tomorrow. Tom with the smartest comment of the day. We should wait for more details or proof to come out. But it may all end up being shut down in court and nobody will be able to know anything. Could be that too. Anyway, taking your calls on that at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I do have some bracket stuff I want to go over with you later on in just a moment. My upset picks that I like. And Will gave you his earlier. His are normally pretty good, but I've got some of mine for you in a moment. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. I don't believe the whole thing, man. They should have went to the police. The Clemson game, here's my thing on the Clemson game. Clemson plays well against teams that don't shoot well. And I think Clemson wins that first game. I think Clemson wins the second game. Now, with that, they'll probably drop, tomorrow night. But it's just my opinion. I could be wrong on that.
This is Rob Parker. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by LifeLock Identity Theft Protection.
March Madness breaks up today with 8 teams vying for the last 4 spots in the field, including Appalachian State. NIT continues tonight. NC State and Davidson will meet for a spot in the quarterfinals. Deshaun Melvin will make the Panthers his 10th NFL team after he signed a 1-year deal today. And a third masseuse has come forward with claims of misconduct against Houston QB Desean Watson, who says the women's lawsuits are baseless. I'm Scott Davidson.
Tax season can be a big headache if identity thieves steal personal info from your tax forms. LifeLock helps protect, monitor, and restore your identity. No one can monitor all transactions at all businesses. You can save up to 25% off your first year at LifeLock.com. Promo code RISK.
I like Winthrop better than Clemson. Just saying. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Call up with your upset picks right now, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeart Radio app. Here are my first round upsets that may happen. I like Maryland taking out UConn. Now, that's a 10 over a 7, so it's not the biggest thing in the world. I get that. But I think that is an interesting matchup to watch. Now, I also think that I like Michigan State. If they can get past UCLA tonight, I think they beat BYU. I really do. Also, other couple of things that I really like. If you told me to pick one that's really outlandish, the Texas has like a horrible history of losing in the first round. Would anybody be shocked if they lost to Abilene Christian? Probably not. Probably not. Some other first round matchups that might be interesting. I think Mizzou's going to win their game over Oklahoma. Feel pretty confident in that. I've got LSU going to the Sweet 16, which means that they'll have to knock off Michigan. But I like LSU. They don't play a lick of defense. Not a lick of defense. The stats show that. But they've got the best point guard that money can buy, according to their coach. I think I've said that before. It still makes me laugh. I think LSU can win 2 games. I really, really do. I also like Southern California. That would be I'm looking at my stuff here, in their regional as well. Some other first round upsets to watch. A lot of people are just saying, and this is the big thing with the talking heads right now, that Clemson is going to drop their game tomorrow night. They love that 10-7 upset there. I think that people need to give Brad Brownell's team a little bit of credit. They do. What do they do? One thing that's really good, they play good defense. Now, they may have days where they don't shoot the ball well. They don't shoot the ball well at all. But the reality is that Clemson plays defense. And let's look at Rutgers. They don't really shoot the ball very well. When it's team-on-team defense there, I think Clemson has the opportunity that they can get that win there. And then with Houston, more of an interesting matchup there. They've got some true players there, but I like Clemson to win tomorrow night. I also like Winthrop. You don't have your point guard. That's a problem. And it's like the Captain Obvious commercials. It's a problem when you don't have your point guard. I think that's the big thing that may end up hurting them as well. Villanova, by the way, ranks in the top 5 among Ken Palm's rankings. So they're solid, but I think Winthrop is that good. I really do. One other matchup, and I tell you what, Jimmy's got it right here online. Virginia Tech over Florida. Yep. And Iona. Edwin's loving the Iona. You got Skeletor coaching Iona, man. You think Rick Pitino isn't somewhere just overcooking film so he can figure out a way to get his team to, him being in the NCAA tournament is a big deal, but he's going to try to pivot that and put that to a point where he can get a better job. I mean, it's no disrespect to Iona, but Rick Pitino's been at Louisville. He's been at Kentucky. He's been in some great schools. Iona's a step down on that list. I think he wants to get back to the ACC, the SEC, whatever. He wants the opportunity to do that. And I tell you what, the way that he is going to work up that resume is if he could knock off the SEC champion with an Iona team, I'm serious. He's going to be coaching somewhere else next season. Anyway, you can call up with your favorite upset, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon, Virginia Tech over Florida is another interesting matchup. The computers love that matchup too, by the way. So, yeah, that's something to look at as well. Virginia Tech had like the big pause there. And all of a sudden, they come out of the mix and they're going to be rested. Haven't really played much. They could be rusty. You never know. I think one of the big things with the NCAA tournament this year, though, is going to be, I don't think teams are going to shoot very well. I think that not being able to play the whole, you're in quarantine, basically, as they've created their own bubble. Yeah, I think that's going to be a problem. So look for teams that normally shoot well to not shoot well. So when you have that, then some games when you're looking at your bracket could change. My bracket tonight is going to be, I'll finish mine tonight with the section on Michigan State and UCLA. Michigan State wins. I think they beat BYU. I really do. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Tom says Bama's going to be the first school to ever win the men's basketball and football national title in the same year. Okay. Sure. Also, USC Insider says, imagine how somehow my Titans get Ingram and Clowney, stays with the Titans. It's a lot of money. Yeah, but that would be really interesting. It really would. I don't know where Clowney's going to end up. And there's the whole injury thing with him too. That microfracture surgery, they don't do that much anymore. And I wonder how much time he's got left on those knees, man. I really do. When he was legit, when he was like with Houston, he was outstanding, a great player. He still got pressure to the quarterback wherever he's been. Just the health thing, I think, may hinder Clowney. And Melvin Ingram I think he's still a stud, in my opinion. You can build around him. He's a little bit longer in the tooth now, but a team that, like, he could do what Jason Pierre-Paul did, in my opinion. They're not necessarily the same kind of player, but he could do what Pierre-Paul did for the Patriots. Go and sign somewhere under the radar and then make plays in December and January. So Tom says he had a one-handed INT to get them their only playoff win in years in Houston. Yeah, that's true too. But as far as Ingram goes, I think that's, and Clowney may be able to do the same thing. A team that's looking more and more interesting is the Arizona Cardinals right now. They picked up A.J. Green and then went from there. Interesting stuff there. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on the rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us here today. JPP wasn't a Pat, Rob. Very good point, sir. Very good point. I thought you were talking about, I'm confused, Tom. I'm having a hard time keeping up with the chat today. I need like some chat room barons is what I need. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown. Where do you think Clowney's going to end up? We could talk about that. Spring practice, of course, starts with South Carolina. And Shane Beamer's supposed to have a press conference today. We'll get you some info from that. All of that for you here as we move right along. South Carolina baseball team last night dropped a game to Davidson. Wow. And Gamecock fans were upset about that. And I'm like, man, it's a midweek game. Calm down, ladies and gentlemen. You guys got to take a break here. Season's long. It's March. Got April and May before everything messes up, man. For you to worry about things being messed up. I remember the year South Carolina won their baseball, their last national title. They went to Francis Marion and lost a game. So let's just slow down a little bit with all that. All right, so we'll take your calls when we come back at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. In our last segment, we'll give you the rundown on everything else that's going on in the sports world today. Kind of like the like an overload segment here of different stories that are out there. Everything from some NFL notes to one team has a major issue going into the NCAA tournament. A team that I like a lot, but now I think they're a first-round exit for sure. We'll tell you about that in a moment. You're listening to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I heard about that. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's got the NFL ties, man. Maybe that's going to be what he does. Just be like a player representative or something. I don't know. I'm out of water. Need some more water. Yeah, but I don't want to. Does anybody really want to play for the Eagles? I get to go to Philly. I don't want to go to Philly. No one plays the fullback anymore, man. Come on now. Yo, Trubisky is getting there's some jokes on Twitter from Trubisky. Oof. Oof. Crazy. Thanks to David for the super chat. Appreciate you, brother.
chance to double your stimulus or to get one if Uncle Sam left you out. Listen to win $1,400 checks every weekday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Final segment of the rundown this afternoon. Out to the phones we go. Bobby joins us. What's up, man?
Hey,
How you doing?
happy day in my life.
Why is
The
that?
Chuck Oliver show announced the sports book is now open at Cherokee Indian Reservation in Murphy, North Carolina.
Oh, wow. The reservation has opened up it's the sports book up there. That's awesome.
Yeah, the governor, I guess, signed off on the law to let legal sports betting either on the app or on a bricks and mortar casino.
Well, that's great. Maybe Governor McMaster will finally come off his, because he said that the South Carolina folks don't want that, but maybe he changes his mind when he sees that and he sees everybody going there to place bets.
They bought time, because that program, I know it's on the opposite channel of yours. Colin Carr's on when he's on, but they've been running an ad saying the sports book open soon, and so on my lunch hour today, my work schedule has changed, so I caught some of the program. He said it's now open, so it's in Murphy. They have casinos in Murphy and Nashville, so that's that general area in western North Carolina. Beautiful up there. Anyway, I'm driving home from work. I'll listen to the rest of the show. Thanks for letting me put a little shameless plug in.
Appreciate it, brother. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
All right, well,
bye-bye, Rob.
All right, man. Thanks. Yeah, that's a big deal. The sports book opening up. Wow. Yeah, we'll see how that works, man. With Governor McMaster, he thinks that people in South Carolina don't want sports books and casinos and everything else, but I'm beginning to think that people do. But it's until legislature sees the money that can come in from that, they're not going to want anything to do with it. And I think a lot of it comes from I think there's a lot of older folks that think that it's a sin and you shouldn't gamble and all that. And I understand that area of it too. But the reality is that Governor McMaster has taken money from casinos for his reelection campaign. So if you're willing to take their money for your reelection campaign, then you should be able to possibly let them build casinos in the state. I mean, if it's money that's in sin, then you shouldn't take it at all, right? Maybe I'm reaching. Maybe money's just money. But they're getting all that money that, the way they got their money to give him was through gambling and everything else. But that's too far-fetched. The people of South Carolina, according to Governor McMaster, don't want anything to do with all that. Here's a thought. We could finally get the huge potholes that are down near 5 Points, right there next to the beautiful University of South Carolina campus. The potholes that are the size of actual pots, like big spaghetti pots. We could get those fixed with the money from the casino taxes. I'm no math student, but that makes a lot of sense. Let's try that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I mentioned Mitch Trubisky getting signed by the Bills to back up Josh Allen. Man, couple tweets have already come out. Damn, I thought Jake Fromm was elite. Rest in peace, Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm versus Mitch Trubisky is the preseason backup quarterback battle America needs right now. And some other people were a little more, they were a little more friendly about it. Someone tweeted out, Trubisky is a terrific insurance policy for Allen. What was one other tweet? Trubisky is the best backup in the league. It's honestly good for Trubisky to get out of Chicago. People like that. Tom says, did we raise gas prices that were supposed to fix our roads a few years ago? I agree with you on that, but you can go literally. I use this as a perfect example. The bridge down there at 5 Points, when you, the rail bridge, when you you can the street. I can't remember the name of the street, but it's right there near the railroad tracks. That's right there heading into 5 Points, right across the street from the park, from Maxie Gregg Park. Any of those streets that go up have potholes in them that are absolutely stupid. Maybe they can use the gas money correctly. Maybe they could do that. Or maybe if they need more money, they can actually open up the casinos like every other state that's around us that's building, has their sports books and everything else. I mean, I hate to break it to some people, but people are going to bet anyway. You might as well get the tax money off of it. No. People don't bet, Rob. The people at my church tell me they don't bet. Of course they don't. Stop it. Make sure you keep getting that money, though, Governor McMaster. You keep getting that money from those casinos, though. I'm sure that's not coming from the actual gambling. I'm sure that's just, maybe that's from, I don't know, something else that they do. It does say it's from the casinos, though. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown. Tom says, we like to be different here in South Carolina. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I get that. But being a proud South Carolinian, when I think of what we could do to Myrtle Beach, places like that, if we had sports books and everything else, it makes sense. And Tom says we're trendsetters. No, this is not being a trendsetter. This is being, what was it, up until like 5 years ago, the only place to get a mini bottle in the country, it was like an airplane and South Carolina. Just saying. We got to get better on that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Appreciate the folks that download the podcast. I have that up for you every day. My final four picks, I was thinking about this, and I'll share that with you just by, I like Illinois a lot. I like Michigan to fall out to LSU. I like Illinois, Florida State, and I'm still debating on my other two. Just saying. 803-978-1832. Lawton Swan from Clemson Sports Talk. He'll be up here shortly. I got to look at his bracket. It's normally trash. I mean, it's not like he knows anything about basketball. I think basketball is, he knows like all the football stuff. He's big on that. I mean, he does know everything on the football front. I'll give him that. But on the basketball front, yeah, not so much. His bracket is literally trash in day one. It really is. So be sure that you check that out. His show this afternoon, Clemson Sports Talk.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
People in the chat room get mad. We'll play it again.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
Don't look at his bracket, but enjoy his show. His bracket is trash. Don't let him come on and talk stuff about his picks and everything else, because they're all garbage. He'll probably message me later. Hey, Rob, who you got in the Sweet 16? I don't know about anybody else there. I've been studying the second string offensive line at Clemson because that's what I'm really into. So I need your help. I can see him doing that. His picks are trash, but listen to his show. He'll be on from 4 to 6 this afternoon, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, 100.1 The Fan, 920 AM in Manning. He's one of my dear true radio friends. Started his show with a podcast that if you can still find it, it's actually really funny. Go and check that out. 17 minutes of awful. Clemson Sports Talk #1. He'll tell you that. Anyway, we love Lawton Swan. Tomorrow on the show, we'll have the final breakdown on the Clemson-Rutgers game and whatever else comes up. Hopefully I won't have to talk about another thing for Deshaun Watson. Let's see if we can take this call really quick here. Caller, go ahead. We got 15 seconds.
Yeah, I want to talk about Frank Martin.
All right, we got
Why
10 seconds.
Go.
Why he's got to go? Go ahead.
He's got to go because he's been to 2 goddamn tournaments in 9.
You can't use those words on the radio, man. Sorry. All right, so Appreciate the call. We'll get back at it tomorrow right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. People dropping bombs on the radio? You can't do that. I'm drinking water today, guys. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you later. He brought the passion. He did do that.